Revised, complete script. I was naked, covered in cow blood, sitting in a circle with 12 Maasai women who were deciding whether I was worthy of being called a woman. And the only thing I could think was my mother would absolutely die if she could see me right now. Actually, that's not true. My mother was already dead, had been for 10 months, and her ashes were in a Ziploc bag in my backpack 20 feet away. Everyone assumes I left Chicago to find myself. That's bullshit. Nobody finds themselves. You just get far enough away from home that you can't hear everyone else telling you who you're supposed to be. I left 3 days after my mother's funeral. We buried her on a Tuesday. By Friday, I was at O'Hare Airport with a one-way ticket to Delhi and $18,000 I'd saved for a down payment on a condo I didn't even want. I quit my job via text message from the gate. My boss called 17 times. I turned off my phone somewhere over Greenland. My friends thought I'd lost my mind. Started a betting pool. Highest bet was 6 months. Nobody bet on a year. Nobody knew about the journal. I found it cleaning out her apartment, hidden in a shoebox under winter coats she'd never worn. My mother kept a journal for 30 years, and I never knew. Page after page of dreams she'd had, places she'd wanted to see, the fellowship in Tokyo at 29, the job offer in Paris at 23. She turned them all down for a boyfriend who left her, for parents who died anyway, for stability that meant nothing when cancer showed up at 53. The last entry was dated 1 week before her diagnosis. Just one line. I'm 53 years old and I've never made a single decision that scared me. What a waste. I made a promise at her graveside. I wasn't going to waste anything. And I took her ashes with me, planning to scatter them somewhere she would have loved. Varanasi hit me like a hammer. I arrived jet-lagged, stumbled to the Ganges River, and immediately witnessed cremations happening right there on the riverbank. Families crying, flames reaching high, the smell mixing with incense and river water. An old man saw me crying and asked, "Why tears? This is celebration." I couldn't eat for 2 days. My friends back home said, "Just come home. You tried. It's okay." Instead, I went deeper. I spent a night alone on the riverbank, watching families grieve, and I realized something. Everyone back home thought I was brave. I wasn't. I was terrified. But my mother never even got to be terrified of the right things. She was scared of disappointing people, of seeming irresponsible, of taking up space. I decided to be terrified of things that mattered. 3 weeks later, I almost died in Cairo, completely my own fault. Wrong turn at midnight near Khan El Khalili market. 3 men started following me. One grabbed my bag, and that bag had my mother's ashes. Something in me snapped. Not fear, fury. I fought back, screaming in broken Arabic I'd learned from a YouTube video. The man looked shocked. A local shop owner ran out, started yelling, and the men scattered. He invited me to his family's apartment for dinner. His daughter, Amira, became my guide for the next month. The woman who left Chicago would have handed over the bag. This version? I was ready to die for a Ziploc bag of cremated remains. But Egypt was still normal danger. What I found in Scandinavia was something else. I traveled to Svalbard, the northernmost civilian settlement on Earth. Went there in January during polar night, 24-hour darkness for weeks. When the sun doesn't rise, something happens to your brain. Time collapses. I started seeing my mother in reflections, had full conversations with empty rooms. Other travelers got worried, suggested I leave. Instead, I joined an ice cave expedition. The guide was a woman named Ingrid who'd lived there 9 years. Inside the cave, surrounded by blue ice and total silence, she told me, "You're not crazy, you're just finally quiet enough to hear yourself." That scared me more than the darkness. I decided I needed noise, chaos, people. So I went to Africa. I arrived in Tanzania through a volunteer program. Planned to stay 2 weeks, stayed 4 months. I worked with a Maasai village in the Ngorongoro district, carried water, learned their language, Ma, earned trust slowly. The women's elder, Mama Nolari, 67 years old with a smile that could crack granite, eventually invited me to participate in a coming-of-age ceremony. Not as a tourist, as a participant. They don't do this for outsiders, ever. The ritual required cleansing. They stripped me down, painted my skin, and I sat in that circle while 12 women chanted. They gave me a new name, Nasirian, one who brings good fortune. Then Mama Nulari asked me a question. "What did you leave behind that you needed to become who you are?" I said, "My mother's death." The circle went silent. Then she said, "No, you brought her with you. She's in your eyes. You carry her still." I realized she was right. 10 months into this journey, I still had the ashes, still hadn't scattered them, still hadn't let go. That's when I understood I wasn't traveling, I was haunting myself. So I decided to climb Kilimanjaro, scatter the ashes at the summit, make it meaningful. Perfect. I didn't expect the mountain to try to kill me. The summit attempt started at midnight. Temperature was negative 15 Celsius. My guide was Joseph, attempting his 19th summit. By hour 3, we'd reached 5,500 meters. Other climbers were turning back. My head felt like it was being crushed in a vice. Severe headache, nausea, confusion. Joseph said we should descend. I said no. I started crying. My tears froze on my face. I couldn't tell if I was crying for her or for me. At 5,800 meters pre-dawn, the oxygen deprivation caused hallucinations. I saw my mother walking ahead on the trail, wearing the blue cardigan from her funeral. I followed her. Joseph physically stopped me. "Jessica, there's no one there. You're walking toward the edge." I looked down. 1,000-meter drop. I broke down completely. Joseph held me while I sobbed at 19,000 feet. I told him everything about the ashes, the journal, the betting pool, the whole stupid year. We reached Uhuru Peak at sunrise. I took out my mother's ashes, tried to open the bag. My hands were too cold, too weak. Joseph helped me. The wind immediately scattered them. Not the poetic moment I'd imagined, just gone, in a second. All that carrying, all that protecting, and she was just gone. I didn't feel relief or closure. I felt finally alone. For the first time in a year, I wasn't carrying her, and I had no idea who I was without that weight. 3 days later, back in Arusha, I looked at myself in a hostel mirror. Severe frostbite on 3 fingers. Lost 15 pounds. Hadn't showered in 6 days. I didn't recognize the woman staring back. I checked my phone. First time in weeks. The betting pool messages assumed I'd come home now. One friend wrote, "Okay, you proved your point. You won. Come home." When did I say it was a competition? I had $3,400 left. Could fly home tomorrow. Instead, I booked a volunteer position at an elephant sanctuary in Botswana. Didn't tell anyone, not to prove anything, not to honor anyone. just because I wanted to see elephants. I called my father, first time I'd spoken to him in months. He asked, "When are you coming home?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Your mother would be proud." I said, "This isn't about her anymore." Long silence. Then he said, "Good." We both cried. That was the moment I understood. I'd given myself permission to disappear. Now I needed permission to exist. I'm still traveling. 18 months now, currently in Montenegro. My friends stopped betting at 12 months. I still have no return date. But it feels different now. I'm not running, I'm not proving, I'm just here. Sometimes people ask me what I learned out here. They want wisdom, a revelation, some profound answer about finding yourself. Here's what I learned. You can carry someone's ashes around the world, and it doesn't bring them back. You can climb the highest mountains, live with tribes, almost die a dozen times, and you still have to wake up the next morning and decide who you are. My mother died never making a choice that scared her. I've made nothing but scary choices for 18 months. And you know what? I still don't know if I'm brave or just broken, but at least I'm finally asking.